macroorganism essentially. And of course, whenever it spores, you need thermal radiation from the sun to grow. Everything requires the sun, obviously. Every organism on Earth requires the sun, whether it gets sunlight or not, meaning directly or indirectly, it needs the sun. Just like eggs, you incubate eggs. So we are essentially half universe and half Earth. The universe aspect is the Holy Father, and this would be the Holy Mother, or Mother Earth, Y and X. And the omega is the growth. So you have your alpha, beta, and omega. And the iron oxide in the oceans, as I was mentioning, the blood, we inherit the iron oxide blood, or iron blood, the iron core of the planet and the saline solution of the Earth. Our blood types are A, B, and O, and AB, alpha, beta, omega, alpha, beta. These are all charges too, because you have your antibodies, antiparticles, positive and negatives. This is anti-B, anti-A, none, which is basically a neutral, like a neutron, anti-A, anti-B, making it O negative. Essentially, particles work the same way with your alpha nuclear energy and beta electrical energy, and the growth of both of them combined. So it coincides with mycelium, plasma, the universe, Earth, our blood, cells, since our planet is a type of eukaryote. It's a eukaryotic cell, and that's why everything on Earth is eukaryotic that's advanced organism of any type. So you have your nucleus, your cytoplasm, you even have nucleoplasm, which all mirrors the Earth, because we get our body from the Earth. Now, essentially, we mirror how the universe itself, the singularity, was born. When it goes from its Bose condensate to the quark-gluon plasma, which is the singularity. Those are on other videos. I'll go ahead and explain one here too when I get the chance. Hold on. Let me make my point here. It's going to do the same thing that we do when we are born, or the zygote, and the 6th-day blastocyst, coincidentally. The 6th day. And as it basically forms from nuclear and electric energy, a giant atom, which is the singularity, which spews smaller copies of itself into space as it dies, or goes through the Big Bang, coincidentally, Big Bang, Y and X, conception, even conceiving an idea, a child, supreme being, fractals, mycelium. The singularity is going to go through its beta decay, because it's essentially, whenever it gets into its quark-gluon plasma stage, it's a giant neutron or diamond in the sky, and it's huge. And as it goes through its beta decay, it's going to emit protons and electrons, and it's going to inflate. And it's going to do exactly this. It's going to keep dividing. And it's going to essentially reach its 6th day, and it's going to go through the Big Bang. But this is only from its quark-gluon plasma stage. From the cold to the quark-gluon plasma stage, we're essentially going through this process, how our father goes through the process, and each cell itself mirrors the mother. Now, leptons themselves are an X factor. This is going to be the mother. The leptons are the most fundamental particles in the universe, because even quarks have composites of electrons because they are charged. I explained this in one of the other videos. This leptonic energy, which is static, will form a Bose-Einstein condensate, and it'll be clear, it'll be dark, and it'll be very dense. Because in absolute zero, with just static electrons, or leptons, it's going to go through a type of alpha decay. And then it's going to go through beta decay, and then it'll be born. But it mirrors this in this aspect. And once it goes from a cold state to a hot state, and once it reaches a hot state, go to a ground state, but it can't because there's no ground in space. So in a leptonic space, microscopic pileup of particles become macroscopic. It's like a macro black hole, because a black hole is technically quantum mechanical superfluid. From what I've found, now anybody can debate it or whatever, I don't care. Debunk it, it doesn't matter. This is what I think, or believe anyway. Black holes, since they are a massive quantum mechanical superfluid, they're a cold, dense Bose-Einstein condensate of alpha particles, which is essentially helium-4. And that's why we have so many red dwarfs toward the center, because it's sucking all the heat. Not only is it dense and everything falling toward it, but since it's the coldest, in a potential difference, everything's going to want to move toward the cold. And that's exactly what happens. So the universe is based off thermal mechanics, essentially. Or quantum biology, that's what I call them. There's several aspects, as a matter of fact. Chronotheism, time essentially, being what is. But I digress. So this thing, as it gets less cold, it turns crimson, a reddish color. Now this is that iron oxide aspect. This is why our blood, this is why everything matched up so perfect. Because essentially this is going to be a type of red shift until it gets to the blue, which is the quark-gluon plasma, as I explained in the other video. While the Bose-Einstein condensate essentially reaches this blue point right here, or an even white, it's at the hottest state. from the reddish, and it goes through this stage right here for just a very short time. This is one reason why we don't have green stars, but we only have blue and red shift, or red and blue stars, and very yellow. Because the period of green is so short that even if there is a spectrum of a green star, we'll never be able to see it. Because by the time it's gone, the lights, we'll never see it. Trust me, we'll never see it. So it goes from low energy in a high state. It's just above absolute zero. It's low energy, but it's in a high state because it's not bound. It has a lot of potential to be able to do something. And it becomes less cold because this is its potential. And the potential difference between it's very cold and it's very hot is very, very, very high. So by the time it gets to its hottest quark gluon neutronic state, because space is 1 and 0, okay, it's already geared to a neutral. It's something and nothing. So the first thing that's going to want to form is actually a neutron or a quark gluon plasma, which is neutronic in nature. Now it's high energy in a high state. It has all this high energy and potential in it. All the subatomic particles are zooming around. At this point, they're not doing that because they're falling over each other. They have no kinetic energy. So when it reaches this point, it has all the kinetic energy it needs, and it's still technically unbound. And boom, it wants to go to a lower state. So it goes into a high, now it's high energy, all those charged particles moving in a low state. So you essentially got low energy in a high state, high energy in a high state, and high energy in a low state when it turns to matter, because all the particles, the quarks, color charge, electrons zooming around the nucleus, all that's the high energy, but it's in a low state now. It's not in such a high, it's like frozen energy. That's what matter is essentially frozen energy. And water mirrors these effects. That's why water is so odd. That's why it has its properties with plasma. It actually is a type of plasma because it is literally the blood. So now, whenever it's in this stage, it wants to die fast because it's so high energy. Now, even though we claim it lasted just Planck times, it still lasted billions of years. But even those billions of years are technically Planck times because in this case, this is in a superposition because there's no relativity of anything else but space and it. So even if it was spinning, imagine you have an eyeball looking all the way around something. You see all angles of it at the same time. That's how space is seeing this thing. So even if this thing is spinning, technically relative to space, it's not even spinning because it's literally on every side of it at all times. It's like you being tied to this and it's spinning and you staring at this. You're moving with it, so you're not going to see this move. Essentially, that's what space is seeing, but it's not moving even if this is. You see what I mean? So this is the Higgs boson. This doesn't have any spin to it, relatively, and that's why it's a superposition. Because even if it lasts years also, it's going to decay very fast. We are technically in a superposition relative to particles in particle colliders because they only last seconds and we last billions of years compared to the lifetime of that particle. So essentially, whenever this turns into matter, that's when all these charged particles have charge now. They're on a small scale and they're passing light back and forth on a proto-nucleonic lattice. And this is also why the boson-sign condensate is blue whenever it essentially goes through its fireworks, as I've elaborated on the other video. Now, this is what pisses me off about cosmologists and astrophysicists who have evaluated plasma cosmology, rejected it because it does not match the observations of astrophysical phenomena as well as current cosmological theory. Because I don't even know why they think this. Everything I just pointed out, in fact, mirrors the blood in quantum biology and mycelium, which is literally everything plasma. Everything. Every bit of it is plasma. Right down to the quarks and the leptons, essentially, which is energy, and fractal, and biologically fungus. And considering organic compounds of unexpected complexity exist throughout the universe, and alpha keratin, this is primarily found in mammals. Beta keratin is found in reptiles and birds. This is two separate lineages, live birth and eggs. Now, I theorize that the ocean, or saline, the salt water, the oceans themselves, are an enzyme. Enzymes are proteins that help speed up metabolism or the chemical reactions in our bodies. They build some substances and break down others. All living things have enzymes. Our bodies naturally produce enzymes. And they've even found this to be somewhat true. And also the bacteria releasing enzymes. Chemical reactions.